Mrs. Tottweiler, she is the special representative of the Director General to the UN Geneva. Please, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you for inviting FAO to be here, and I'm happy to represent Jose Graziano da Silva here on the platform. I want to just read a brief statement of the work that FAO has been doing on disaster risk reduction and on FAO's perspective on how we can move further. As a result of the Hyogo Framework for Action, there has been good progress in setting up structures for enhanced disaster risk reduction and in reducing mortality risks. However, despite these positive achievements, economic losses have tripled over the last 20 years, and progress in addressing the underlying risk factors remains slow, especially in the agriculture, food, and nutrition arenas. Factors driving disasters and crises and related risks facing populations and national authorities are becoming more complex, more dynamic, and more interconnected. These include climate change, population growth, population inequity and poverty, demographic factors such as migration and urbanization, political instability, economic crises, environmental degradation, and the mutation of pathogens and their adaptation to climate change. The root causes of these increased risks include inappropriate development practices and overexploitation of natural resources. Sustainable development must be the foundation of any risk reduction effort. Cross-sectoral mechanisms and approaches to risk reduction are fundamental, but they must be complemented and reinforced through sector-specific strategies and interventions with the full engagement of dedicated line ministries, local institutions, communities, and other partners. Within the agriculture sector, which includes livestock, fisheries, aquaculture, forestry, and natural resources, as well as the typical agricultural production commodities, the enormous gains in production and productivity that have been achieved in the past 3 decades has often been accompanied by land degradation, salinization of irrigated areas, deforestation, over-extraction of groundwater, and erosion of biodiversity. At the same time, more than 30% of global food production is damaged or lost before it has been consumed. The total number of food and nutrition insecure people in early 2013 was estimated at 870 million people. While the percentage of hungry people has fallen over the last 20 years globally, this is still an unacceptably high number. The current food and production systems are failing to feed the world. While we may have enough food in terms of total calories, it is not reaching the right people. Based on current trends, FAO estimates that due to population increase, urbanization, and changes in consumption patterns, we need to increase food availability by 60 to 70% in 2050 to meet food demands alone, and that does not include demands for bioenergy. As an example of work in order to meet these multiple challenges, FAO is promoting sustainable agricultural intensification, which promotes a landscape and ecosystem approach, which both regenerate and sustain the health of farmland through conservation agriculture, use of appropriate seed varieties, integrated pest management, and plant nutrition strategies based on healthy soils and efficient water management. Given the growing exposure to multiple stresses and shocks, building resilience of individuals, communities, livelihoods, and ecosystems is one fundamental dimension of sustainable production. Within FAO's new strategic framework, increasing the resilience of livelihoods to shocks and threats affecting agriculture, food, and nutrition is one of FAO's core objectives. FAO's resilience agenda has been inspired and informed by the Hyogo Framework for Action, as well as by the organization's interconnected development and humanitarian work. The new strategy encompasses strategic partnerships and direct action in 4 key mutually reinforcing areas. Govern risks and crises. Countries and regions have legal, policy, institutional, and regulatory frameworks for disaster risk reduction and crisis management for agriculture and food and nutrition. Watch to safeguard. Countries and regions deliver regular information and trigger timely actions against potential known and emerging threats to agriculture, food, and nutrition. Apply prevention and mitigation measures. Countries apply prevention and impact mitigation measures centered on livelihoods that reduce the risks for agriculture, food, and nutrition. And then finally, prepare and respond. Countries and regions affected by disasters and crises are prepared for and can manage effective responses in the arena of food, agriculture, and nutrition. FAO is structuring and gearing its support in proactive ways along these 4 pillars and in line with its work on governance and gender in order to serve the most affected people and countries in regions in their agriculture, food, and nutrition sectors. For FAO, the post-2015 framework should maintain the core elements of the current Hyogo framework, but with an additional focus for more inclusive and integrated approaches and a stronger emphasis on reaching the most vulnerable. Thus, FAO recommends that we improve linkages between humanitarian and development interventions to risk management in the agriculture, food, and nutrition security arena. The Hyogo framework can provide clear structure to support resilience building, linking prevention, preparedness, and mitigation, response, recovery, and risk management in a more systemic way. That we accelerate the institutionalization of disaster risk reduction in key sectors such as agriculture, food, and nutrition. The Hyogo framework should help member states increase disaster risk reduction and crisis management with key line ministries and promote multi-sector collaboration. Coordination and leadership for disaster risk reduction should go beyond civil protection institutions and should increase its outreach and better access highly vulnerable people to risk reducing measures and technologies available through various sectors. Finally, better integrate disaster risk reduction and climate change adaptation policies, investment plans, and development programs to reduce emerging risks associated with extreme climate events. The institutional segregation of climate change adaptation and disaster risk reduction poses practical implementation challenges, particularly from a food security perspective, and especially at the farm and community level. Thank you very much for affording FAO this opportunity to speak and to introduce the importance of agriculture and nutrition into this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Duttweiler, for your statement.